Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of June 11, 2013. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for their floral arrangement they always provide for our meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Mr. Simon, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, announcements. There aren't any announcements this evening. Presentations. No presentations this evening. Review of the agenda. Everybody okay with the agenda? Okay, item number 6, approval of the minutes. We don't have minutes this evening. Item number 7, consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Anyone like to...
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve the consent calendar on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, public hearings. We don't have any public hearings this evening. Item number 9, public comment on items not on this agenda. Is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation. Interaction where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council on this? Okay. Item number 10, conduct of business. First is item A, receive report and provide direction regarding design and maintenance for the Posey Park water feature, landscape and lighting improvements associated with the San Bruno grade separation project.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we're returning to you tonight, as we said we would at the last city council meeting, to follow up on a couple of remaining items of decision-making and one information item that the City Council requested related to the planned improvements and features at Posey Park along First Avenue and the lighting under the overcrossing that is rapidly becoming a project taking shape at our grade separation at San Bruno Avenue and along the rail line in San Bruno. Specifically, the City Council is being asked tonight to render a final decision in order that the project can continue to move forward undelayed towards its final completion at the end of this calendar year on a couple of items, and I'm going to leave it to Mark Simon of the Joint Powers Board to give you a little bit more detail on those specific items and the specific decision-making being asked of the council. In summary, it is to confirm the east side landscape treatment along First Avenue, along the wall and the planter area adjacent to the wall. And let me back up and say that at your last council meeting, I think the council made a fair amount of progress towards a number of other issues of decision-making, but did ask for a little bit more clarity about some of these features so that you know precisely what it is that you're being asked to approve. So it's with that in mind that we're returning to you tonight. It's with that little bit more information, and Mr. Simon will give you a little bit more detail. The second topic is the water feature that has long been anticipated as a prominent amenity in the relocated Posey Park, and again, Mr. Simon will walk through exactly what the features of that amenity are. And then thirdly, you're being asked tonight to confirm and give final approval to the lighting treatment on the undercrossing at San Bruno Avenue directly under the station platform. The last item that the City Council requested additional information about, and I'd like to just speak for a moment to that, is the anticipated cost and method, or the game plan, if you will, for maintenance of these new improved features once the grade separation project is finally completed and turned over as a finished product to the city of San Bruno, or rather certain elements of that. At Posey Park, there's an interest to understand what it will take for the city to take over maintenance of the water feature. And similarly, the City Council was interested in understanding what the potential cost and game plan for maintaining into the long term the landscaping improvements at Posey Park. I need to point out to you that pursuant to our agreement with the JPB, the city will also assume responsibility for landscape maintenance along First Avenue. This is an agreement that was entered back in 2010 that sets forth the responsibilities of both the JPB as well as the city of San Bruno as related to long-term maintenance of the various improvements, and in an interest to assure that this area was landscaped in an appealing and sensitive to the neighborhood manner, and to assure that it would receive an adequate or reasonable level of maintenance attention. Our agreement was that the city of San Bruno would assume that responsibility. As the written report in your agenda materials for tonight indicates, staff has done some research and developed information that identifies, to the best of our current knowledge and understanding of both what the improvements consist of and what will likely be required in order to keep them in a reasonable shape of maintenance. We are estimating a total of approximately $66,000. That amount is, it's approximately $78,000, my mistake, assuming a water feature at Posey Park. Staff's specific recommendation is that that feature would best be turned over to a contractor with expertise in pool and or fountain maintenance in order to assure that not only is the water quality, but the pumps and various structures of the water feature are maintained in a manner that it makes us continue to be proud and view this as an amenity in Posey Park. In addition, staff needs to let you know that, as we have discussed on a few previous occasions, our parks and grounds maintenance staff in the Community Services Department has a full plate of work associated with ball fields, parks, and other city facility maintenance operations already in our work program, and does not believe that the additional workload associated with this additional landscaped area is, and again, remembering that Posey Park, before its renovation in its previous location and its previous status, adjacent to Artichoke Joe's at the intersection of Huntington and San Mateo Avenues, frankly, didn't receive a lot of maintenance attention. It had a few very large mature trees, a couple of benches, and some not very attractive looking landscaping, which frankly was intended not to require a lot of attention, and over a period of time had not been receiving it. So our estimate in terms of costs at just over $78,000 assumes maintenance to landscape features to be provided by a part-time adjunct staff person in a way that we perform seasonal maintenance activities. We staff up a bit in the this time of year when weed abatement and other pre-fire season activities are needing to be performed. Similarly, we staff up in the winter for storm drain maintenance and for sandbag production in the Public Services Corporation yard area. So similarly, we would anticipate, in this budget or estimate amount is based on part-time staff hours that would be necessary in addition to supplement the additional workforce to perform these additional job responsibilities.
A quick question. What do we do for maintenance of the pool, the pumps, the systems there?
Most of that, the routine maintenance is performed by staff. The specialized maintenance work for pump repair, when I say routine maintenance, I'm talking about things like checking the water levels and brushing, keeping leaves out of the pool. But the other more technical maintenance activities of pump maintenance, et cetera, is typically performed outsourced by contract.
Yeah, just a thought that maybe we could, with the economy of scale, save some money on both by using the same contractor.
Using the
both.
same contractors.
Same kind of thing. One's moving, one's not. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just for the purposes of getting a reasonable estimate, we did consult with Archstone, actually, because they have a similar kind of large water feature. We thought that we could get an idea from them, but certainly that's a good idea, and it may produce a cost-effective result for us. So with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Simon to walk through the improvements and the specifics of the features that the JPB would be completing, and then turning over to us and allow you to ask any questions and hopefully render a final determination.
Thank you. Good evening. As you can see, and just for the sake of the permanent record, we did provide this material to the city last week, and I believe the council was given a chance to see these things in print in addition to what's on the screen. And you can see some various, one of the things you asked for, which struck us all as eminently reasonable, was drawings of the water feature that gave us a better idea of what it was and what it looked like in its scope. So we have a series of those now to show you how it will work. There's a shot from above. You can see that it sort of flows down a series of steps, and there are also those series of spring-like fountains all across the back wall. And it all recirculates. The water recirculates, so it's a sort of a continuous flow of water. So that gives you an idea. And then we have some slides to show what it would look like if it was landscaped. There you go. And it would be landscaping that isn't all that dissimilar to what we've been showing, where the water feature would have been on the east side, but is now also landscaped. And it's really up to you. Because of where we are with the construction of Posey Park, this is something we kind of need to decide now. I've tried to reduce the number of things I bring to you and say you must decide now, and this is the only one tonight. God knows what might come in 2 weeks, but it's really a question of what's the council's pleasure, recognizing that the cost of the maintenance is something the city will have to incur.
All right. Michael? Wait, Ken.
So what's behind those? Is that just like a little grassy area behind the ramp?
You mean on the far right where the tree is?
Yeah.
Well, there's some grass there, some of the similar kind of grass.
Is there a sliver of grass that goes all the way up, or is there? I mean,
Like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so someone could go up into that area.
Sure. You know, it's an interesting dilemma. You want this to be a place that people want to go to and use and even interact with, but not to the point where they love it to death or create additional, what's the ever-present law of unintended consequences?
Can I ask you, not to get away from the water feature, but has the grass in the middle always been there?
In the middle.
I vaguely remember that
You mean where the trees are in that area right in the middle there?
Past renderings of Posey Park, that it was all paving.
Well, I think this has always been the design.
Really?
Yeah, I think maybe the difference is that we're getting a better sense of what the landscape is going to look like, and so we're providing you a more complete picture. But I believe it's always been designed to be not all cement or paving.
Okay. And then the pavement is just is different colors.
Right.
Michael?
Okay.
So we have staff's estimate on the maintenance cost of this, and it sounds like it's something that the maintenance of this would be beyond the ability of our current staff. But are we getting a strong recommendation here that we should not do this? Or just a caution that if we were to do it, then it wouldn't be with our current staffing level?
It's the latter. It's the caution that it would not be with our current staffing levels, that it would not be practical to assure you that we could assume this workload and perform it responsibly. Staff it did not make a specific recommendation in the report. I think that staff's considerations about at the last council meeting, there was a fair amount of discussion about, is this going to be actually more like a fountain where there's potential for water blowing all over everywhere. Doesn't really look like it is that is likely to be a huge problem, or water blowing out into the pavement area and creating a slipping hazard. I think those types of issues our minds have been relieved about that. I would say staff's opinion is that the features as presented are very nice, and that this would be a terrific amenity. It's really up to the council's decision-making whether you think that it is, given the cost and given the logistics of the maintenance of it, whether this is something that the city can reasonably manage so that it stays a nice amenity. And I think that's really the biggest consideration we need to make tonight.
I really think that the water adds a lot to the appearance of the area, and if it doesn't seem like the maintenance is going to be cost prohibitive, although it will be a jump in what we're currently doing, I think that this is. I think that we should definitely pursue the water feature. To me, it looks like it was designed to have water, and with the grass in it, it just looks like a fountain that's got grass in it. So let's put water in it.
Irene?
I just want to be really clear. I want everyone to be really clear. The cost of maintaining the fountain itself is only roughly $12,000. So my understanding is the cost of maintaining everything else is going to be $60,000+. So regardless if we do the fountain or not, we're still looking at $60,000+ of maintenance per year that we are going to have to do. Okay, just so that's clear. I was originally against the fountain, to tell you the truth. I hadn't had a clear picture of what it would look like, and I am relieved. I am relieved too that it's not water shooting really high up and that the wind's going to push it onto the walkway and all those things. I really appreciate looking at the curve and how it all works together. So as long as we as a council understand we're going to have to up our ante as far as maintenance goes, I'm all for it.
Rico?
We just had a budget study session, so obviously there's time to take care of any of those issues that may arise from a decision tonight. As I was at the last meeting, I was in favor of the water feature. I still am tonight. The pictures do help. And then I know the other item was to confirm the First Avenue landscaping. I know, and it's just for my peace of mind, maybe I've been up here a little bit or something, or a couple meetings. I've never recalled of us being up here, other than, I'm going to acknowledge that that's what's being told to us, of course, and that's what it was, but that was more of the subcommittee. I don't remember that coming up to us, making that decision, one versus the other. That's just my memory. But I will acknowledge that that information has come up, and I would say absolutely yes on the water feature. I like the mayor's comment about looking to the vendor that services maybe the pool's needs and see if that can be coordinated. And was there a third thing that we were looking for tonight?
I just thought we'd take it one thing at a time. The city manager laid out we'll get to the east side landscaping in a moment. I just
You
thought
just
we'd
want
try.
the water feature? Yes.
And Ken, was that a yes earlier?
Yeah, I just want to say that, 10 years ago when the Citizens Advisory Committee first viewed the designer's proposal for Posey Park, we all sort of gasped and said, wow, who's going to pay for that? And we were cautious because, why? Yeah, let's go for it. But, and we know we'd have to answer the question someday on, how is that going to affect the budget in just the overall getting it constructed, and then obviously the ongoing maintenance. And we went, the consensus was to keep it. My only concern was, how was the feature going to be water-like? It had water. We knew it had water in it, but this gives it a lot more credibility to show that, now you're going to be able to hear it, you'll be able to see it better. I've always liked the plaza, the Posey Park Plaza area, and I think any criticism about or argument about maintenance is like, we haven't maintained this part of the city in my memory. I mean, we can talk about First Avenue, we can talk about Posey Park, we can talk about that whole area, and we haven't invested any maintenance funds in that area. And that just goes with, with progress and improvements. And I think we're going to have to find a way. So yes.
Yes. And I also agree with the water feature, something we worked on for, I think it's longer than 10 years. But
Can't think back then.
yeah, right, exactly. So I agree with the comments from the rest of the council. We're going to have to maintain the area anyway, but it adds a little spark to that whole area and a little life. So I think you have your direction.
Great. Thank you. I just want to tell you, as you drive up and down the peninsula and look at grade separations that we built, there's nothing like this anywhere else. You should be very proud of where we ended up. And it took a long time for us to get where we are, including taking a long time to show you what it would look like. But we've had as a goal from the beginning to do something that sets San Bruno apart and really makes a statement about the kind of community it is. And I'm thrilled that you've made this decision. I think you've made the kind of decision you set out to make, and I congratulate you for it. If we can go on to the east side landscaping. And just for the sake of the permanent record, the grade separation doesn't just stop like that. This is just some examples of some of the trees we'll plant. You can see a side view. There'll be landscaping on the, I don't know how to describe it, the area that slopes down, the slope. And also a strip of landscaping between the pedestrian sidewalk and where the grade separation berm begins. Here's some more.
So those are pockets where you're taking parking away.
This is an idea of what it looks like
Oh, there's some areas,
on First Avenue.
some areas where there's no parking.
You can see there's quite an extensive bit of landscaping. All the shrubs and all the trees and all the vegetation has been done in accordance with the requirements of the city and its own Parks Department. I forget which. Is it the Parks Department? Am I right? Yeah. In other words, these are all city-approved, city-required vegetation.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Some of your drawings are showing smooth surface, and some of the renderings are showing the same material as on the grade separation. So, is it?
You mean on the
mixed?
walls themselves?
On the walls, on the little retaining walls themselves.
They'll all be the same, right? Are they all going to have the MSE?
Because I mean, you can.
Well, it's a smooth finish.
On the retaining walls, it's a smooth finish?
Okay, so if you back up one more. Yeah. So
Oh.
so what's that? Gotcha.
Something we wish we hadn't done. When you do these things in a hurry, sometimes you do them in ways you wish you
I
hadn't.
better catch everything. Almost.
Is,
I will just jump in. It's your option. If you will express your desire that you want the same texture on that lower wall, certainly would be no issue with JPB to implement.
Through the chair, on the wall, on the smooth surface, unfortunately, because Vice Mayor showed me some pictures this evening of graffiti, and all I thought was smooth canvas
Yeah.
for somebody to want to go, unfortunately, and we know what they do. So would the smooth surface be better, or the one that we didn't think was in there, that Councilman Ibarra found? And would that be more of a deterrent to that possibility? I don't know.
I actually have not spent my time plumbing the depths of thinking that goes on in people who spray paint graffiti.
Irene?
I would guess, and just from anecdotal things that I've heard around places, that the rough is less, people are less inclined to spray paint rough surfaces because what they are spray painting doesn't show up as well. So I would guess that, and you guys have had more experience with graffiti throughout. Does it matter?
Well, we're going to have our graffiti expert come up and speak to that now.
And Councilman Medina, I did give the pictures to Mr. Simon, and he is going to take care of it, is he not?
In fact, it'll be taken care of within the next 2
On your way home.
Well, I've got some spray paint in the car. Yeah.
So you're absolutely correct, and this is obviously non-scientific polling data here, but yes, you're correct. The rough finish seems to discourage it a little bit. Problem is when somebody does, it's harder to deal with. So the advantage of a smooth wall is that you can paint it and you can readily repaint it. The advantage of the rough face is that they're less likely to paint it in the first place. So there's not a real good, perfect answer for you on that.
Is it possible, does anyone have any idea about the landscaping, that possibly the landscaping would spill over that wall?
Yeah, ivy or something?
Yeah, well, I think some of it is growing up on the back wall.
Right.
Yeah, you know, the real issue here is less to do with that than just the general scheme of the landscaping. Because it's landscaping, we can make decisions about it very late in the process. That is not something we have to decide right now. So if it's the council's preference that we try to find some way to cover that wall with growing stuff, with growth, we can certainly work with the city on doing that.
I would think in general, anything that would discourage graffiti would be advantageous.
So, yeah, we can do that. Just, hopefully, we're just getting sort of your sign off on the way it looks, the general design of it.
And this being in the subcommittee with the mayor, I mean, we spent a lot of time and effort in preserving or even enhancing and improving the view from the First Avenue homes. And we did have a lot of cross sections, a lot of elevations of this nature. And so this is what we're accustomed to.
Right. Instead of one huge wall, it's terraced back and terraced up. So I think it's good.
If I can jump in for your clarification, the subcommittee and you saw a concept drawing and cross-section at that time. When this project and the maintenance agreement and operation agreement was approved by you, at that time, the assumption was that the second 2 tracks will be the next phase. And that's the reason why you never saw a finalized design on the east side. You always just saw a conceptual design on the east side with the promise that before the east side will be finalized and implemented, you will have the opportunity to comment on and to make a decision on.
But 10 years ago, we were looking at a two-track design, and this is what we saw.
Irene?
Thank you. I have one more question. I'm a little confused about the parking that shows here. Are we adding to the width of, are you adding to the width of the street and then making parking like that? Or is the width of the street going to be the same as it is now, and that's just lines for parking, or is that just a concept somebody threw out there? Am I being clear about the question? Because from here, it looks like you're adding width to us, for us.
Right, no, that's a good question. No, it is the same overall width.
Okay.
At First Ave, the sidewalk that you're seeing on what would be the west side, that's wider in that that's actually on JPB property.
Okay.
So from that point of view, it's a little bit wider because there is currently no sidewalk on
Right.
that side. But this, yeah, the striping was put in there just to sort of illustrate, rather than stack up a whole bunch of cars. I mean, we could stripe it or not stripe it, obviously, but the intent was to delineate them. Currently, it's not delineated. Currently, the parking is just along the curb side.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So the way this picture is shown, it looks like there's a parking pocket. That is actually what you're building or not?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're referring to I can show it on plan view. Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, so to answer your question, there is a portion that is recessed in somewhat that comes in further to the west, and that's where the parking is.
Okay.
So you don't see that strip running the whole length along First Avenue.
Okay.
Just where there was additional.
Right, but right now, the length of First Avenue is straight on both sides. So
Correct.
that indent looks like it might be a little bit of additional space in the roadway. No?
Because we're using right-of-way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because it's actually on the right-of-way. It's on our property. We're just making it, I
So-
believe.
So that was my
I think
question.
that at least for a little space there, it looks like it is inserting itself into the right-of-way.
Okay.
Is that a fair statement?
So there's still parking on the other area. Right.
Yeah, I guess my underlying question is, you're not taking away the width of the street and you're not taking away parking.
No.
Okay, that's the bottom line of it all.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, if I may, on the west side, you're just showing that little white car that's parked there. There's nothing else, just, I mean, there's no, I don't see a
Yeah,
separate.
that's how we made room for the additional street width. We took out some houses.
No, so see the little white car on the right?
Kid.
Yeah.
Is that all
I
that
think it's
there is
going-
on that side?
So that's actually during the parking lot at Posey.
Artichokes.
There's a
Okay,
planting strip
but
along the wall.
we're not adding any trees or any,
Yeah, so you can't really see on the scale of that, but there's a small planting strip that has the ivy in it.
See it there.
So
Okay.
yeah, there you go. Just to zoom in enough. So yes, there's, where that wheel stop is where the paving stops, and then there's a small strip of landscaping, and then the ivy obviously going up the side of the
okay.
MSC wall.
Are you in that, and I don't see a schematic of it, are you reshaping in any way that parking lot that now has equipment on it?
Yes, we are. So it gets reconstructed as part of the project. So if you recall, as part of the complicated land transfer arrangement, we're actually providing a 9.5 to 10-foot strip of property. And so where you see that, it looks like a Prius, I guess. Where you see that Prius right there, that's actually on JPB property right now. It's actually, the AJ is getting 9.5 feet wider,
Okay.
if that answers that. And then it all gets repaved and a new sidewalk and then street trees along Huntington Avenue.
Okay, that's my other
Okay.
question is, are you going to add some trees to it?
Yeah, can you show the plan overall? You could probably see it. There you go. So this is actually Artichoke Joe's parking lot, and those
Okay.
fancy octagons you see on the foreground, those are street trees. So there's a small triangular sort of planter at the corners where each of those wheel stops are.
Okay,
And then those other areas are just low ground cover you see coming into Posey.
okay. when the sidewalk is finished, that'll be ADA width and all those good things.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Like we have a choice.
Again, acknowledging and all, I again just had, but I think I'm going to answer my own question. If you went not with the smooth retaining wall, I'll call it, I bet you that's more money. That didn't shock me.
Lighting?
We tried to send over some slides that showed lighting underneath the pedestrian underpass and the vehicular underpasses. The problem is they don't translate very well. So I'm not even sure we have some of those slides here tonight. Am I correct or am I in? I can't remember now. Well, we'll show them to you, but we have to confess that it's all about the lighting. So we mentioned that that's the vehicular underpass. You can change the color. So you could make it green for St. Patrick's Day or something, I suppose. Or there's another one I think that's pink. There's orange. And that's within the city's control to change that color and even affect the brightness of it. So that just gives you a feel for it. And then the pedestrian underpass lighting, it's simply enough to say it's a simple strip down the middle. The problem is that they don't depict the underpass very well. It's not very long and it's remarkably wide. It's what? It's 20 feet wide, 35 feet long. So it's not a very long underpass. I know I would be concerned. There's the underpass as it's under construction. You can get a better idea of at least the size of it. It's just not very long. I know there'd be concern if it was terribly long, and I know this was something that was an issue for Clara from the very beginning. If we make it too long, we make it unsafe. And so clearly that's not what we did. What? Oh, also, yeah, thank you. We were all big fans of that yellow that somebody had proposed, and we never quite knew where it came from. This is the color the underpasses will be painted, which is meant to match the same color as the walls everywhere else. So that was the last thing. Two more things we wanted to talk about briefly. We got clear direction from the council about a medallion. We took one sort of brief stab at drawing something, and it's not worth showing to you. We'll have to work with staff and with the subcommittee probably to really brainstorm some ideas. That's something that can come, I mean, we could do it the day of the ribbon cutting, or we can even do it afterwards. We'll make sure that the
You're not
grade
going to come in 2 weeks.
What? I'm not going to come back in 2 weeks.
All right.
Not for that anyway. I might just come back. We can build the grade separation so that there are bolts there for the medallion, and that's something we can do at the very end or even literally afterwards. But we recognize that it's a signature statement for the city, and we want to really take the time to design something and work something out.
Can I ask a question, probably for Raphael, regarding those bolts that are sticking out right now? I mean, those are all like post-tension bars and everything coming out that would have been, I guess, coupled with the next two tracks, if that were to come or when that was going to come. So how does that get covered, or does that get removed? And
So I think what you're referring to is you're talking at the underpasses themselves. Right. There's some
the large concrete girder,
yeah.
And it's got major stuff coming out.
So that's going to. The reason we didn't build those caps in one shot is because we had a shoe fly in the way and it was conflicting with it. So you're right that if we built 2 more tracks, that's where we would dowel in. But we also still have to finish off the pedestrian walkway and
right.
the
So it's
platform
not even.
on that side.
So that's not even there yet.
Yeah. So you'll actually see if you drive by now, you'll see them actually building platforms to get back up there. There's another whole set of pours they need to do at that location. And then, I mean, it'll be a lot less dramatic than the first time because you're only adding on, 4 feet of concrete this time. But yeah, that's what those
Good.
will be.
Look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll be, I'm sorry.
Oh, I have one more question, and it just came to me. There might be a trade-off in cost of keeping the concrete smooth, but coating it with the graffiti, whatever that stuff is called, anti-graffiti painting. So you coat it with paint, and that makes it easier to wash off. So that might be a solution both ways. And then the same with the underpass. That's an extremely attractive place to put graffiti. Can we ask that it be also coated with anti-graffiti paint, sealant?
I think we've actually discussed that issue.
Yeah, and I will double check that, but I believe it currently has called out to have a film on that for graffiti abatement.
Okay, great.
At the underpass, not at the wall, but you could obviously add that.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I'm sorry. When I say it's already there, I mean on the underpass. Obviously, we haven't necessarily finalized that on whatever kind of wall you would build.
Right, it's not built yet.
Right,
So
it's not built
anyway.
yet, exactly.
Okay.
And then the last thing we'll mention, we talked before about a mock-up of a couple of sections of this to demonstrate the lighting. We're a few days away from being done. We've spoken with the city staff about how we can best make it possible for the council members to come out individually and take a look at it, especially at night when it really is meant to show off the lighting effect. And we'll work with the staff and figure out the best time for the council members to be there. Generally, we can tell you that it's at the site, but it's removed from the construction area. More than likely, we will always have someone on the site who you can contact and just go and see if you decide to go essentially at the spur of the moment. But we'll figure that out. We really definitely want you to see that. That's also where we'll be taking the efforts we want to take to make the cladding, what's on the outside of the lighting feature, so that it doesn't create additional problems for the city, either by noise or anything else like that.
Okay.
Can I ask one more?
Sure, go ahead.
Regarding, security and safety and things, is it standard practice to eventually put up security cameras or some form of?
Well, yeah.
Yes, so we actually have a large number of security cameras as part of this project. They'll be covering the underpasses as well as the parking area, as well as the access to the platform and the platform itself.
Would there possibly be at least one, shooting at Posey Park?
I don't
Maybe
recall off the top of my head if there's one
Well,
at
this-
Posey. There definitely is at the underpasses approaching Posey. I'd have to double check. We have a fair
That'd be
number
interesting
of
to know,
windows,
because then that would hopefully deter from any vandalism.
Sure.
We're all concerned about having such a nice feature that
Right.
in a moment's notice can be damaged.
I'm making a note.
Yeah, I'll double check what angles those were placed at the ramps. I mean, in general, the intent was exactly that, was to discourage,
Yeah.
any kind of nefarious activity from taking place. And so they're generally at each of the either underpasses and or all the access points. So I'd be very surprised if there isn't some coverage of that, but I can double check.
Because of the
exactly.
staircase and the ramps, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, you have your answers?
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you to the staff, especially for allowing us to get this all on the agenda in such a quick and short period of time.
All right.
See you soon.
Item 10B, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Horizon Brothers Painting for the Civic Center painting project in the amount of $92,100 and approving a total construction budget of $115,100.
You can put the city center.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Will Anderson, Staff Engineer, Public Services Department. I'm here to present the Civic Center Painting Award construction contract. The project generally encompasses painting the exteriors of City Hall, the library, and the fire station adjacent to City Hall. This project was last brought forth to Council in January of 2013, and at that point, staff received direction on an approved concept, which generally encompasses creating a uniform look along El Camino, including the relief sculpture on the library, placing stucco at the entry stairs to the City Hall, power washing of the existing brick retaining walls, and including a bid alternate to include stucco and painting of the brick building facades along the El Camino frontages. So since that point, we encompassed the concepts into bid documents, which we put forth for bidding. And on May 22nd, we did open bids. We received 5, and staff is recommending award to the lowest responsible bidder, which is Horizon Brothers Painting. Staff's recommendation is also to include the alternate to install stucco and paint the brick frontages along El Camino. So if staff's recommendation to include the bid alternate is not desirable by council, we can delete that work from the contract, and that will not alter the status of the bid results. So we are estimating construction to start in 2 months, probably in August, with a completion date in early to mid-October of this year. There's additional work under the definition of the project, but is not part of the construction contract. One item of work is the trimming of the landscaping adjacent to the buildings to provide a clear path for our painting contractor to work. And that will obviously occur before the painting project begins. A second, sub-project would be install an entry plaque to City Hall and also address numbers. And that will be a future project. So we do have some conceptual drawings, both on the PowerPoint, and we do have larger versions on the easels on the other side of the building here. If if there's more detail that you'd like to look at. So here's the conceptual drawing of the City Hall with the proposed paint colors. And we have similar drawings for both the library. Please note that the relief sculpture on the library will be a uniform color based on the request from council earlier this year. And finally, we have a rendering of the Fire Station 51 just south of the City Hall building. So I guess staff's recommendation is to authorize the city manager to execute a construction contract, including the bid alternate for an amount of $92,100 and accounting for inspection, staff time, and contingency, approve a construction budget of $115,100. So with that, if there's any questions.
Any questions of staff? Ken?
Through the chair?
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I noticed that on the City Hall one, and I know it's going to be a future thing, you have San Bruno City Hall, and it really stands out. And even the address, the El Camino Real, stands out. But the Central Fire Station and the San Bruno Public Library wordage does not. Can we have those painted red, maybe, in the accent color? And then I think it would make it clearer what people are looking at.
Yeah, we can definitely investigate that.
Yeah, do you guys? Okay. And then I personally, since we're going there, I personally like the brick left. So that would, if we vote and leave the brick, that would mean that you don't need the alternate, right? Okay. So
Correct.
I personally think the brick kind of frames it and is nice. I like all the colors as they turn out. I really appreciate seeing it this way. It makes a difference. And I think the white edging that's on here, the high, I guess, sort of accent things really makes it very elegant. So that the only thing I would change is the, to paint the lettering so that it stands out, and I'd leave the brick. And that's my opinion.
With the City Hall drawing, can you, I drive by it every day, but it appears that the landscaping to the left or the south of the flagpoles is going to be significant. I mean, as far as removal, because I don't recall seeing that part. Seeing much of the building. It's just pretty dense. So your plan is your proposal is to eliminate a lot of landscaping there.
Yes, since it was last presented to you, we, as far as the landscape trimming, we also decided to remove, I think, the bush immediately to the left of the entry. And there's actually an air conditioning unit behind
That's
that,
where the
which
sign-
will
where the
also
sign
be
is, yeah.
used. So the decision was if we just trimmed back that bush, it would not look presentable. So the removal of that bush in its entirety is planned.
No, I'm all for it. I'm all for it looking like that. Yeah, which means a lot of, and it's my understanding. I agree with Irene as far as the brick, but according to the staff report, it was the brick that was on the building below the windows. Okay.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So it really is not as noticed. It's not even shown on these photos.
Yes,
Right.
is shown.
Well, if you really
and
look.
If you really look, you can see that, yes, you see brick only just on the right side of the building, and also a very small section in front of the fire station, which is included in the alternate. All of the retaining walls, everything is will stay cleaned and with minor maintenance.
So
brick.
the retaining wall that's right on the sidewalk there, that will stay brick.
Correct.
Okay.
Other than also the right side of the stairs that was already included in the base bid based on your input last time, that will be stuccoed and painted.
Okay. Yeah, and my 2 cents on this signage, I think we need to talk about that because you've got City Hall on, that's on the window above the doors. You've got San Bruno City Hall, which I really like, is those letters that are in there for the, and it ties in the other buildings. And then you have San Bruno City Hall to the left with the proposed sign. Yeah, I think there's overkill here, so there might need to be some discussion on how we consolidate some of our signage. But I agree. The 567 El Camino Real on the new stuccoed wall, that looks good. That looks really good. So maybe, like Irene says, maybe the letters, the metal letters get painted a darker color to really stand out, and are the same on all three buildings possibly.
Could I just ask for clarification? When you talk about the metal letters, you're talking about the ones above the door to City Hall that float in the air?
Yeah.
The library has a similar, so this,
All three buildings have the
the same.
same, have the same style letters, either against the wall or
and they're not real visible right now,
Right.
but an architecturally consistent feature.
it is the style, that font goes with the
Yep.
buildings, yeah. And I think that's,
Okay. Thank you. Michael, anything?
Yeah, thank you. I was just looking at those letters that everybody was talking about. They're definitely more noticeable in front of the building versus floating on top of the roof like they are in City Hall. So regarding the stucco on the bricks, I kind of like the idea of covering the bricks on the building. But I did have a question about how extensive that would be. I was looking on the north end, the north entrance facing the library has a couple of planters there. And I was wondering if the stucco would include those areas. Probably not.
At this point, no. We are treating them more like planter areas, but the bricks will receive a power washing and repairs of any voids or cracks.
There's actually one side of a wall that's actually hanging off of the rest of it, so probably going to take more than a little mortar to fix that. Okay, so it would be strictly the brick that's under the windows then, and just on City Hall,
And just along the El Camino frontage.
not on the Linden Street side.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's going to be inconsistent. Then we have that other, the little patio area outside of the library is also brick, and it kind of seems to flow with that. So I guess if it's just that one section, it's not going to look complete if we do that and not the rest of it. I was also wondering about just the bricks themselves probably need to be checked for leaks, if whatnot. I'm assuming there's possibly a wood frame underneath that, and if water gets behind the bricks, then it could cause damage inside. I thought maybe the stucco would help seal those off if we decided to do that, but again, it would have to be consistent, and it would have to include the areas that are planters versus just decorative brick, and it doesn't sound like we're going there.
That was part of the decision process. If we did stucco all the planter or retaining walls, we would have to repair those walls prior to placing the stucco at an additional cost.
I would add also one of the other consideration was that beside needing much extensive repair, those retaining walls before will be stuccoed also wasn't a complete redesign of the landscape around the City Hall, and was the discussion that probably in a later date all of the landscape around City Hall can be redesigned as part of a separate project, independent later on of the painting itself.
Okay. And then looking at that structure next to the stairs and on the El Camino side, the part that we're talking about stuccoing, I did look in there, and there's plants on top of there, and there's irrigation there, and I'm wondering if that's not going to contribute to excessive moisture in those bricks that are there and causing the stucco to separate or bubble up at some point.
That's a good point. I guess I can confirm that with our stucco, or our painting contractor and his stucco people, just to make sure.
Yeah, because along the rest of the wall, I noticed that there are some drainage spouts at the bottom, and there's really small ones for this particular section. So that I'm thinking there's a potential for that to be an issue. I like the way it looks, but again, I'm wondering how robust that's going to be. I wasn't able to find the paint samples that we got last time, and some of these drawings it looks a little bit greenish, and I don't recall it looking that way when we had the actual paint samples way back when we first discussed the color scheme.
Yeah, we do have paint chips, probably like 3 inches by 5 inches of the complete color scheme. I apologize as didn't reach you guys, but...
okay, but does everybody remember the color looking? It was more of a tan sort of color, not a sort of greenish tint like it looks like in these pictures. I just wanted to make sure, because to me the greenish looks a little dated, but I remember the colors looking a little nicer when we saw the actual color. So I just wanted to verify that.
Before the contractor will start to apply the final painting, can be a bigger sample requested to be provided, and each of you can have your input at that time before that will be applied to the building.
All right, thank you.
Rico, anything?
Real quick, just on the El Camino sign with the El Camino side with the City Hall. I'm going back in memory, but I had thought because it was going to say San Bruno City Hall to the left of the flagpoles, that there was some discussion of removing the San Bruno City Hall, we'll call it the floating, as the city manager said, because like you said, it's above the glass, it would be to the left, and then have up top. I think we need to coordinate that somehow. It doesn't stand out at all, as the vice mayor said, so I don't know if you move it and you put it on the north side of the building above the windows. I don't know if you put it to the left side, or I thought that's why the San Bruno City Hall was being placed there, was in lieu of that. But that again goes back long ago. So that's my only comment.
Okay. I also agree it's a nice scheme, and I'm also for just cleaning the brick on the El Camino side and the rear of the building. I don't want to skim a lot more brick than what you already have shown here. And then I go along with the talk about the signage and stuff too. These letters sit way up on top of City Hall, but your eyes are not going to be drawn to them the way they're sitting now at all. So I think we have to have a little discussion about removal or replacement someplace else.
Just make sure that we're absolutely 100% clear. Just to recap what I think I've heard. First of all, painting the metal signs on the library and the fire station
Right.
so that they stand out, and evaluating the relocation of the one above the main entrance to City Hall to see whether, again, painting it and then seeing whether we could relocate it to a place that would be more visible on the frontage of the building. Secondly, regarding the treatment of the front area just to the right of the main stairway into City Hall, we're being tasked with double checking and confirming that stuccoing over that area that contains some planter and irrigation material, that can be done in a way that's not going to be compromised by potential moisture down the road, consistent with the council's previous guidance that you want a uniform appearance on both sides of the stairs at the main entrance to City Hall. One area I'm not 100% clear that I understand what the consensus of the council is then the bid alternate having to do with the brick on the building itself. I heard two different opinions and want to make sure that staff has clear direction as to whether the bid alternate to stucco over the brick that's actually attached to the building itself on the north side of the front of City Hall, and there's a small section on the front of the fire station, I believe, to the north, to the right-hand side of the door, main entrance to the fire station. What is the council's guidance regarding that particular feature?
I had foregoed it. I didn't think it was necessary.
And I agree. I just leave the brick, clean the brick and leave the brick.
Okay, and I think Councilmember O'Connell, you had the same opinion, and is that correct?
Yes. There's brick here.
Michael didn't want it, but
Yeah, I'm not voting.
Okay, so we will delete the bid alternate, and then lastly, we're going to, there was one more thing. We're going to provide you with the paint chips so that you can see precisely what the color is before it's applied.
Okay.
Correct.
I have another color
Correct.
question.
We're deleting the bid alternate.
Can you? I don't recall if we talked about it much previously, but can you explain the color scheme of the sculpture relief? I mean, you're showing it, but you're not showing any variation to it, and I know it'd probably be difficult, but you're specifying 3 different colors on that.
Actually,
that relief.
the material that you have in your packet was the previous concept that had that relief sculpture being colorized. The City Council directed in the January meeting that you did not want that bid, and in fact,
That's not part of
the
this.
wall color will be uniformly applied over that relief sculpture. That's the plan.
So, and just for my clarification, you haven't decided what you're going to do with the building letters yet. but we make, one consideration would be to paint them a darker color.
So I'm hearing consensus by the council to paint them in a darker color as related to the fire station and the library, and then to seek alternative placement of the one on City Hall and to paint it. Is that the consensus of the council?
The letters on all three buildings are the same.
Correct.
They're like aluminum or something, they're metal. So to say that you're going to paint them like you are on the other buildings, I don't think they're being proposed to be painted.
Through the chair,
Yes, Irene.
my suggestion was to paint them. Take them off, do whatever they have to do to them, and paint them the dark red that's one of the colors, and then put them back. And then I think the concern or the question then is, what do we do with the ones on City Hall, because they're kind of floating up there. And my suggestion is, once they're painted, see if they are no longer floating. Maybe the dark red makes them stand out. And if it doesn't, maybe they would look good on the left-hand side where you have that other sign that's a possibility that we haven't decided yet. So the bottom line is, my suggestion is paint them all, and then on the City Hall one, we'll see where it goes.
I'll agree with you halfway. I'm not sold on painting them red though.
Do you want them the dark green?
An accent.
I don't know.
You want them blonde?
I'm a visual guy. I can't just say
Well,
what color.
I think if they're going to do some swatches on the building course, they can.
I'd rather see it mocked up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we can provide some.
It doesn't affect the bid.
No,
Right.
I just think a dark accent color, whatever
I agree,
one of
I
the other
agree.
ones
Okay,
are.
good.
It's
We'll,
fine.
we'll work on that to see if we can at least provide some mock-ups in different colors.
Okay. We are asked to adopt a resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10C is authorize fireworks stand permits for 2013 upon finding that the not-for-profit, nonprofit organizations meet requirements of Resolution 2008-59 and Ordinance Number 1700.
Honorable Mayor and Council, once again, I'm coming before you to ask you to authorize fireworks stand permits. This year, we had 18 nonprofit applicants, which is the maximum allowed by our ordinance. I met with the subcommittee, and while reviewing the applicants, it came to their attention that not every group is made up of at least 50% San Bruno residents. In order to address this in the future, we will meet again in September to amend the resolution to specify the residency requirement. A safety seminar was held on June 5th by the police and the fire department, and every group was in attendance. Another issue that has come up since meeting with the subcommittee is the bag ordinance passed by the City of San Bruno. The two vendors supplying fireworks, TNT and Phantom, have both agreed to provide paper bags instead of plastic bags. They always provided plastic bags, and there's really a lot of little things that people buy, and so now they're going to give paper bags. Each organization, as well as the two vendors, are going to receive a copy of our ordinance regarding plastic bags. And I also suggest when the subcommittee meets again in September that this ordinance is addressed. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Rico?
Through the chair, thank you for, I hadn't thought about the plastic bags, so thank you to the city clerk. Will there be a charge of a dime for each paper bag?
Well, I think that's what the ordinance says. There's no exemption in the ordinance for this kind of commercial activity.
Just so everybody's on the same page. I thought that as well, but just to check.
Can the vendor absorb that cost?
The city is not involved in what the vendor does and how the vendor charges. So the ordinance simply addresses the fact that it's a 10-cent charge for a paper bag if they're providing one.
Okay. Wow, that was a good dance. All right. We need a motion to authorize the fireworks.
Through the chair?
Oh,
Can
Michael,
I ask one
sorry.
question? Only because I don't want anyone to get in trouble here, but part of the bag, it's not a fee, it's not a tax, it's a charge, was intended to offset a retailer's effort in tracking the distribution of bags, and the county is somehow supposed to track that. Are these nonprofit groups, are they going to be required to report to the county how many bags they sold?
The city clerk is looking at me, so I assume she'd like me to answer that question as well. I think the answer is the ordinance applies to this activity at the moment. There certainly would be an opportunity for the city council to take a look at this and perhaps amend the ordinance or provide some sort of relief in the resolution when it comes back. But as of right now, as we're sitting here, it is applicable.
So the city of San Bruno then is charged with enforcing that, not the county?
Well, actually, it's the county
It's
under
the
the
county.
ordinance, yes.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah, I think we have to address this in the future because it's kind of a one-off, you know. And since
In
we're
the
one of the only
ordinance, it
two that sell
specifically
fireworks.
states that they have to have a sales receipt that shows the 10 cents that they charge. I can tell you, because I've worked it 5 years, there are no sales
Right.
receipts handed out to
Right.
the customers.
Even for 3 years, too.
Through the chair.
Irene.
It's interesting what you learn, unintentional consequences. Also, I'd like to clarify, the subcommittee is under the ordinance is not authorized to make the changes. We will be coming back in September to recommend changes to each of the ordinance to you. So if there's opinions between now and then, we'll be talking to people at the different fireworks booths or whatever and bring back bring back a recommendation to you.
Thank you.
So on the bag thing, we're just going to let it fall where it falls. I guess that's all we can do.
That's what we're going to do.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. Okay. They want a motion to authorize the fireworks?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to authorize the fireworks stand permits for 2013. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Report of commissions, boards, and committees. There are none this evening. Comments from council members. I would just like to remind everyone that the farmers market is now open. We cut the ribbon last Sunday, 10 to 2 every Sunday in downtown San Bruno. And it was well attended, and hopefully it'll continue to be well attended as we go forward. Any other comments from council members?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Go to the farmer's market on Sunday, and then on Tuesday, you're invited to Beckner Shelter for the recognition of the improvements at Beckner Shelter. The San Bruno Lions will be hosting a very casual barbecue lunch, barbecue dinner at the event, starting at 6 o'clock.
Good. Is the lion going to be there?
I'll ask the city attorney. Yes.
Okay.
All intentions are.
Good. Any other comments? All right. Item 13 is a study session. We completed our study session on the budget last evening, so there's nothing else to discuss. And item number 14 is adjournment of this meeting until the next meeting, June 25th, right here.